welcome. We're going to actually go ahead and just jump right into the interview for the episode. And it's actually going to take up all of the time for this episode. This interview started because I had first learned about the rules of the game of Go through a YouTube channel. And they had a really great way about explaining the rules and were very popular. And it was really amazing because over time, as I watched those videos, which were dated quite a bit earlier than when I was getting into the game, what you saw was that there was also a huge personal transition taking place. This person, who you may know goes by Sente online, really wonderful person, had actually been transitioning from being a man to a woman. And over time, as I've been in the Go community, I've also noticed that this is a huge part of the Go community. And I wanted to learn more about the folks in the LGBTQIA Go community and get their thoughts on things. What do they like about the community? What would they change? And so I reached out to a few folks that I knew and asked if they would be willing to chat. And they were incredibly gracious and willing to talk about these very personal things, which I really appreciated. So with that, we will jump right into the conversation. Here we go. Let's just kick it off. First, I'm just going to go around the proverbial table and introduce everybody. We have Alexandra. And Alexandra, you've been playing Go since you were a teenager, and you took part in multiple Go tournaments in France and European Go Congress. And then 2 years ago, after talking with several friends in the community about your experiences, you decided to join the administrative team on the French Confederation, and you guys created an inclusion and diversity committee with 3 other players. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, that's correct. The committee was created like 2.5 years ago, and obviously I would like to continue what we're doing. So we're recruiting new people for the committee, and that really means a lot to me. So yeah.
Next, we have Michaela in Sente Gallucci, who is how I got introduced to the game. Like just day one, I needed to learn. And in Sente's YouTube videos were there. So you are a Dawn level Go player enthusiast. You identify as trans, and you are very well known, at least in the US and I'm sure abroad, for that channel. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I think my channel hit the community at sort of just the right time. I felt like there was just like a lack of sort of beginner content to get people into the game. So tried to fill that by like having like it started as a vlog almost, just like me trying to get better. And then as the channel grew, I got stronger, and it's been an amazing journey. So yeah, now I'm trying to think about where else I can take the channel. I'm in Mexico right now, so I'm definitely talking and playing Go with some people here because the game lives on here too. It's incredible. So trying to work on some content for that. So a lot of cool things coming up. So very excited.
Awesome. Then just to keep going clockwise here, we have Cece. And Cece, we've actually been able to connect. I reached out to the community on Reddit. And Cece, you're a double-digit Q player. You're based in the Midwest, and you identify as trans. And you've been just really great about willing to share your story. So welcome.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Thanks.
Excellent. And then last but certainly not least, we got Paige. You are a high Dawn level Go enthusiast who identifies as trans, and you're also very well known online in the Go scene for your tournament performances, for your social media presence, your teaching, and also your written online Go content. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited.
That is okay. I think we're all allowed, to be a little bit nervous. So yeah, let's just start it off and kind of go around the table and just talk about like, how did you get into the game to begin with? So Cece, I don't know if you wanted to start.
Sure. Yeah. So I probably heard about Go, God, that would be 2013, 2012. A friend of mine got like a World Games kit that had like a whole bunch of different kinds of games in it, and Go was one of them. And we played a game that, in hindsight, I don't know if I would actually even call it Go. It was so removed, like we didn't know all the rules, we didn't know what we were doing, and I knew instantly. I was like, there is a depth to this that I am just not understanding. And that's what kind of started the quest of wanting to know more about it. And yeah, that's where I'm at now.
And Cece, I'm just curious, during that beginning of your experience, had you already transitioned at that time, or what was that like?
Yeah, the answer that I wrote down was I think for some people, transition is kind of like a all at once sort of thing. And I think for other people, it's kind of a slow or meandering kind of, or trying to figure things out some people know, and some people are like, something's different. I need to figure out what's going on. And so for me, I would say, yeah, I definitely had come out and transitioned, but it was also, I don't know, kind of a different form than where I'm at now. I think that's also just part of aging. And so, yeah.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. Paige, tell us about how you began, and again, where that sort of happened as you had gone through, transitioning.
I started Go in late 2006 after reading Hikaru no Go. It was just a kind of like a book from my library. And I actually started on a pretty unique server. It was called Fly or Die, where like the little stones explode with ice and fire. And it was super cool. That was funny because I didn't know that 19 by 19 was the standard board. And so I was playing on the little tiny 15 by 15 board for like months at a time. And I was
I
just
never
like,
even
yes,
heard of
this
that
must be
size.
normal. Yeah,
Huh.
it's like it's a special size. And as far as transitioning goes, I guess it's like a complicated one for me because when I started playing online on Go servers, I pretty much told people I was a girl. I didn't go through the whole, I guess, like telling people I was transitioning or like even my parents didn't know at that time. And so I was just telling people like, hey, I am a girl. And that was actually really hard for a while because I wanted to tell people that I was transitioning or wanted to, but I was very scared of how people would treat me, especially the people that I met throughout, 2006 all the way up to like 2012. And so between 2006 and 2012, I would say that I did transition, but at the same time, people didn't know that. And in 2012, I got kind of scared. And so I quit Go altogether. And I kind of like went to live with my dad to try to be like in my own body, and I was like, maybe I can just be comfortable and like just get rid of this side of me. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all for like a whole year. And I was just like, nope, being a boy is not for me. And I was just like, that just doesn't feel right. And so from about 2013 to 2020 was my transitioning period to me. And then in 2022, I came back. And it was funny because I didn't tell any of all my old friends because again, I was still really terrified that, they would see me as a liar, right? Like that I lied to them, that I wasn't actually a woman all that time. And one of my friends is like, you have the same personality as somebody I know. And I'm like, there is no way that you are recognizing me 10 years later based on my personality. And they're like, I know you. I know exactly who you are. And I'm like, there is no way. And they guessed who I was. And I was like, yes, I guess so. And they were so happy that I was back. They're like, I don't even care. They're like, you had such a great and popping personality that I am just so glad you are back. And then they convinced me to talk to like a bunch of my other old friends, and like nobody cared. Like everybody was really happy. So my transition period happened in secret, I guess. You know.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I do remember in reading that article that I think you interviewed for, we're just talking about like getting out of the game, going through that process. And, I can't even imagine what that must have been like, but it's amazing that people identified you like, hey, I know that personality. That's got to be the same person.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Michaela, maybe we can shift over to you. Tell us about how you got into things. And, again, you had sort of that vlog format, which any of us
Yeah.
that have followed your channel, it was powerful for me, honestly, just to see one video being, one way, and then sort of these transitional videos, and then a different way. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So on the game side, I've always loved weird niche games, and I've always been a very competitive person. And so I would always bring weird games to my dad ever since I was little. I'd be like, Dad, like, let's play this. Here are the rules. And like, he wouldn't know what's going on. And I would like play for him. Sometimes, no, 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 you do this, then this, then this, then this. And then I do this, and this. And then he would just be happy to just like try to play. And so we had tried to play Go at one point when I was super little. I didn't know what I was doing. Neither did he. I was too young to understand what resources were because I had subscribed to Shonen Jump. So I knew about Hikaru no Go, and that's how I learned about it. And so I dropped it. I was like, I don't know what this is. This is crazy. And then so as I got a little bit older, the game just keeps just like calling back to you like an old friend. Like that's how it felt like to me. Like no matter like how many times I put it down, there's just always that vibe off of it that I just want to keep digging into it again. And so I tried to learn it for real. And like you said, I had sort of a blog style look. I respond really well to social situations, to community, and to like people. And that's sort of a big thing that I need to like learn anything. So I'm going to try to make that because I didn't feel like I had that. Just grinding ladders wasn't going to be for me if I wanted to learn this game. So really just kind of used it as a way to connect with people. And then it all just came really organically without me understanding or realizing it. We were just such a small community, but everyone was just so wholesome and just wanted to play the game. It was awesome. So the journey started great. I've always had sort of and I think a lot of people can attest to sort of almost an escapist nature with games in general, right? So like as things are sort of ramping into more chaotic personal life, while I was starting to question, some feelings that I had had for my whole life that I didn't know what to do with, there was almost an escapism like within the game. And eventually I, realized that I couldn't just continue on escaping in. It's kind of like in Go. If there's a move you got to play, you got to take the time to play it. If you don't play, your life is going to be way harder for the rest of the game. And there's just a point where you got to just play the move, you stupid move you don't want to play. And so I was like, all right, we got to do it. So I did a lot in secret. I'm kind of the person that I like to have all my ducks in a row, like and all my documentation together. Like I'd like to understand how I feel on everything. I did a lot in hormonally too, like in secret before I socially transitioned. And then eventually I obviously made the coming out video on my channel, explained the whole situation. Obviously you have the one or two weird comments, but on the whole, everyone was just so supportive. And I was so shocked because I was terrified of what everyone would say, because I'd never been in a position where people cared about me as a public persona before. And even though our community was super small, it mattered a lot. So the response was better than I could have ever imagined online. And I truly needed it because, when transitioning, as anyone here can attest, your personal life is in chaos and shambles for a very long time until you figure out who you are again. Right. So it was just such a great rock, throughout that time. And then after you transition, you try to figure out who you are again, right? Like you transition and then you're like, okay, but what else? Who am I now? Aside from all of that stuff. So trying to reacclimate myself in the context of Go as a creator. It's been an amazing journey. And everyone has been just so great. So I'm feel very fortunate to be in the community that we have for this. So
that's exactly what this is here for. Any reactions before we go to Alexandra?
Paige, you mentioned that people picked up on your personality, and I was thinking about how a nickname for Go is Shodan, which means hand talk. And I was thinking about that, of that idea of your personality and the way that you play, even they're picking up on that. That's cool. That's I don't know. I've never thought about it that way. That's so interesting.
Actually, that's actually pretty funny. I actually didn't know that's what Shodan meant. That's actually really interesting. And so it's funny because I was actually really famous for making the administrators of KGS very mad back then because I had a lot of accounts. I had over 1,000 accounts and I would click on these other accounts and sometimes I would have the KGS admins message me and they'd be like, Paige, you made another account. We need you to stop making accounts. We're deranking this one. Go play on your main one. But I also had groups of friends who were really strong, like Lucas Kramer, Lucas Podperry. I was very friendly with a lot of the top European players. And every time I would play them, I wouldn't tell them that I was on this new account that I was playing them on. And they'd be like, Paige, go back to your main account. Stop playing me on your fake, unranked account. They're like, I know it's you. Off the way I was playing. And so I would have Lucas Kramer was one of my best friends back then. And he would always just join my games and I wouldn't even say anything to him. And he would be commenting in the game. And so after the games, how the KGS chat just starts to fill up after the game. Then you can see the chat and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would be like, yep, this is 100% Paige. This is her right here. Called it.
Yeah, that's reminds me of another friend of mine, Sofia Malatesta. She's an Italian Go player. Exactly the same. She had so many accounts in OGS. And so when you looked at her correspondence games, the list was just infinite. I had no idea how she does it to play so many correspondence games at the same time, but somehow.
Oh, you're talking about Sophia. Yeah.
Sophia M. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alexandra, tell us your story.
Yes, so actually I started playing Go, as you mentioned, in my introduction middle school. So the funny thing is I arrived in France when I was in Marseille in France when I was 12. I lived in Moscow, Russia before this, and we moved to France. And so basically we had a Go club in my middle school because there were a few Go players teaching there. So we had a Go club during the afternoon, and Originally, my family is not really into board games or anything like that, especially my dad. Like, he hates games. For him, it's just a waste of time. But I tried at the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing. I missed all the captures, but somehow I still wanted to try to understand this game. And then I had to change schools, and I convinced my mom to make me join the Go Club, and so I joined the Go Club. I played my first tournament when I was 12, going on 13, and I I've done quite a few tournaments. I went to my first European Go Congress in Poland in 2013. Then I went and started studying engineering, so I kind of had a little break during that time because I really wanted to focus on my studies. But once I graduated, I decided I want to come back. So yeah.
Very cool. Maybe at this point we can talk a little bit more about the Go community and the LGBTQIA community, because Michaela, you mentioned that you felt like in a lot of ways there was sort of that rock. There was that support largely. And so maybe we can just sort of open it up for what your thoughts are for all of you. What aspects of the game or the Go community do you think might draw in those from the LGBTQIA community? And also, on the other side of that coin, what might push people away?
I think the game is very, how do I say this? The game is very deep, which I think tends to invite a lot of really like wholesome sort of deep, like the people that want to play Go, I found in my opinion, are just very earnestly interested in sort of the game and improving their own understanding and being a little bit more on the introspective side, right? And I've always felt sort of just like a nerdy kind of comfort there, you know? And I think there's also a humility about the game that I really like in the community. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you see like League of Legends or over like of like the really big sort of esporty games, it seems like there's an inverse correlation between how popular it is and like the wholesomeness almost of like the fan base. You know, you can get a lot of like online players, you know, we've all seen the memes of like the Call of Duty lobbies and stuff like that. It feels like Go is just like no one's doing it for publicity. Like we're doing it for like the natural love of the game. And I think the connection that we can make with people through that like love of the game is just can sort of transcend and help us really understand one another as people more. So I felt very like invited by the game and the community in that way.
Yeah, to bounce off of that, actually, I think I don't know. I was thinking about that question for a while, and I think Go, specifically in like a Western sense, is kind of like a very niche thing. Like I think it's very easy to go to any public area and find people playing chess, but it's not as easy to find people playing Go. And so I think, at least in my experience, Go tends to already kind of pull in, I would say, the unconventional or the niche or the oddball kind of. Like if you're getting into Go, I don't know, like the way I explained it to friends recently is Go for me for a long time was a very solitary experience. It was I would play online, I would read books, and I would try to get better. And yeah, I think that like there's something very queer about that to me of kind of this idea of like, oh, I'm going to get into this very old, ancient, like thousands of years old board game that nobody else knows what the hell I'm talking about. Um, and I'm just going to get obsessed about this for a while. And so that, I don't know, I think that kind of pulls in like a certain kind of like outsider kind of queer experience, I think.
Paige, how would you add to that?
I mean, I'm definitely in like the general agreement that Go has pulled in quite a unique community. I think Go requires a lot of critical thinking, and so it brings in a lot of people that can critically think. And so it's rare to find somebody where you can have a conversation where they just say something out of the blue, and it's like you can have actual conversations with other people that play Go. I think that's like the best way to put it, and I think that's why the community is so thoughtful and feels like a community is because everyone's so willing to talk and conversate and understand and stuff like that. I definitely think that is something that I felt was sad about my situation because I feel like if I had been more understanding of the Go community, I mean, obviously it's a different time, right? 2006 to 2012. I think it might have been a little bit of a scarier time to come out as trans compared to, 2022. But I do wish I had been a little bit more understanding of the community around me at that time and had a little bit more trust in my friends. And then maybe I wouldn't have quit when I did. As for like bringing players in, I always think it's kind of difficult to bring in players. I understood why like Hikaru no Go appealed so much to the West. It was anime, right? Anime has been a big thing, right? Everybody loves it. And so it makes sense and it's relatable. I was very surprised when I heard about the AlphaGo stuff. Coming back in 2022, it was very strange to hear about all of the AI stuff because I was definitely one of those players that believed that AI was never going to be as strong as a human Go players. I had that mystical, magical mindset. And so it was very strange to me when I heard that AlphaGo had dragged in thousands and thousands of players. I was just like, wow, I guess the AI is more relatable to people than I thought it was. And so I was a little surprised about that. So I'm not quite sure what would bring players in today. Generally, I just kind of explore all kinds of avenues. Like right now, I like streaming. I like making videos. I'm currently writing a Go book, like a Go novel. My friend Josh Batsko convinced me to start writing because like I've got like storyboards going on in my brain all the time, but I'm not a very good writer. So I have ideas, I just can't like put the words down. And so I get a lot of help as far as like the writing goes. So like right now, a thing I'm exploring is getting a Go novel out there that could appeal to a community, like the reading community, and maybe attract some players. It's hard to tell what's exactly going to attract people.
I think we all are starved for more Go content too. So that's
Yeah.
great, very exciting. So Paige, we're excited for that. Alexandra, just kind of based on what we're hearing from the group and thinking about your role, I know that one thing you tried to do in preparation for this discussion was just kind of put a survey out there in the community. And I was just curious if you found anything, if there were any comments or anything you saw from your side around the interaction with the Go community and the LGBTQIA community.
Yeah, it's very funny you say this because I have had this conversations with conversation with my friends recently about this survey, and so what happened was I decided just I knew that I won't get a lot of responses because I posted the survey on the biggest Facebook group for Go players, so it was Go Baduk Weiqi players on Facebook. So I posted it. I introduced myself briefly. I said that I was preparing roundtable on this topic. So I asked a few questions. I was mostly concerned about whether people felt rejected or discriminated one way or another because due to their gender or due to their sexuality. And there were some people who decided to leave comments publicly on the page telling that this problem is not that serious, that you're just concerned about about a few like bad apples in the community, that this is more a political issue that's going too far. And well, they were obviously some anti-woke stuff and some people saying that it's not a problem because it concerns a minority. Some people even called me even called this grifting. So yeah, it wasn't that fun. The thing is, there weren't that many people who left those comments, but the thing is, I was thinking about what Michaela said earlier about the toxicity in bigger communities. I don't think that it's a thing of a lot of the players being toxic. I think that toxicity comes from the way people invade the spaces, just like they spend so much energy just spreading this toxicity and negative comments or insults or just being annoying. So
Yeah, it's actually weird how much effort some people go through. Like, I got a message on Facebook, I think about sometime like 6 months ago. Some random stranger I've never met, not a friend of a friend. And somehow they just found my Facebook and they're just like, they just started commenting on my profile and telling me like all kinds of really mean stuff. And it's just like, I don't even know you. Where did you
I
come
don't even know
from?
who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how much effort did you have to go through to get to my profile?
That's the
That's
only way
right.
that I can feel better about situations like that too, is kind of realizing like what a sad existence of like you found a stranger on the internet and just decided to like harass them repeat like on like a pure empathy level, I'm like, you could be doing so much more. You could be studying Go right now. Like you would be way better than a double digit if you weren't doing this. Like, come
Shots
on now.
fired. Holy shit.
You've been called out, whoever you are. It's interesting, right? Like it's one thing to get trolling, and then it's another to get trolling when you have gone through what I can imagine, just going through this like very personal, very vulnerable experience. Even for me as a white male even from my side, when I was asking questions on the podcast, like I was getting, there was some trolling going on where people brought up some interesting things. One comment about like, hey, you're only having white men on, which was an interesting comment. And in retrospect, I kind of appreciated that they brought it up because I had sort of looked at who had been interviewed and that actually kind of had been who was sort of being spoken to. And once we delved a little further and said, hey, I'm sorry you feel about that way. And, I think diversity is absolutely super important. They actually opened up and they were like, yeah, no, like,
Mhm.
what about these people? What about these other people? And it was a really positive thing. So just turning it back to all of you, when you think about the meanness that Alexandra is speaking to and Paige is speaking to and Cece, I mean, I think everybody, all of you have experienced it not only from being part of the LGBTQIA community, but also Alexandra, just your role, right, as a liaison for diversity and inclusion. It makes me think about how people will use something like Go, the world of Go, as a way to, I don't want to say escape, but as a way to cope with really hard things that are happening in their lives. And I know I saw this with somebody who it wasn't somebody who identified as part of the LGBTQIA community, but they were talking about how there were a lot of hardships at home personally. And Michaela, you've even spoken about this on your channel around this sort of relationship with social media and content
Mm.
providing. And sometimes it feels great, but sometimes it doesn't. So I just wanted to put that out there and see if any of you are having reactions or thoughts.
Yeah, those are some really, really interesting questions, right? I feel like the thing about diversity, right? It's like there's always two ways to answer it, right? It's more stories. We love more stories. We love more experiences. That there's ways to respond to questions about diversity that enrich the space that you're in, that bring joy, that bring like excitement. Like what you were doing, you're like you saw feedback and you're like, oh, like you were receptive. And now we're having this like incredibly cool conversation. I'm meeting people I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. Like this is great. Right. And so it just how people choose to respond can just make an experience like so much better or so much worse. And I think there's a lot of tendency, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but at least it feels like in the West, there's a big tendency to like disconnect like who the person is versus like the endeavor that they're doing. Let's just focus on the game. Let's not make it political. Let's not talk about anything other than just the game. Why are you bringing wokeness into that? This whole rhetoric that, Alexandra was like talking about. The thing about Go, one of my favorite things about it is like you bring your whole self on the board, like what Paige was saying. People knew who she was on no matter what account. So she can't escape. She can't make enough fake accounts to escape who she is on the board because people know. Like you bring yourself there. And like my style of Go had changed throughout my life to sort of mirror like my personal journey. As I was feeling less secure about myself, I would feel problems creep up. As I felt more personally secure about myself, I would be more able to fight on the board. Like who you are matters in artistic, deep, beautiful disciplines, especially like Go. And I think to try to detach it and just make it this very dry intellectual experience of just a game without seeing how the persons weave the tapestry, the person behind the moves, I think is like such a disservice to what the game could be.
I actually think it's really cool. Like kind of like you said, in Go, it really kind of like mirrors almost who you are in a way. And it was really cool back then how you were able to look at a game and go, wow, this style is really similar to this top professional player. I remember back in the day on KGS, like in 2006 and 2007 and stuff like that. I remember when Alexander Dinnerstein would watch players that would come on and they were unknown, and they were really strong. He would
Mhm.
actually start taking guesses at who these players were, which professional they were, and we were almost always right. And I
Wow.
remember, yeah, like when if anybody was around when like Tartrate was around and stuff like that, he was one of the people that had guessed at who Tartrate was, and he was correct. And it's just like you were just able to look at a player and break down their style and go, yes, I know exactly who this is. And I don't think that was just something for me, but that was like stuff that was like for my other friends as well. We could just generally have small conversations. I think the best way to put it is generally you just have habits. You can change the way you're playing, but you can't really change those habits. And those habits tend to point to who you are and how you speak and
Mhm.
how you do things. And I think that's generally how, in a way, Go really does mirror you, especially when you're feeling sad or when you're not feeling sad.
Mhm.
People used to make the joke you could tell what your opponent had for breakfast inside their game show matches.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of cool and magical, and I liked that. And that was one of the reasons I always thought that Go was really magical, and AI would never really pass that. However, I will say that even though when I came back to Go, and I was really sad to hear that, AI had taken over and had kind of like made everybody's style so similar, I was reading something that Shinjin So had said where like he said that that style isn't gone. It's just, I don't want to say like he said it like you have to be a higher level, but per se, like, because like when I look at people, I'm just like, wow, you're all playing the same thing, including myself. And I'm like,
Interesting.
everybody's just the same at this point. But I sometimes can see that style difference. Like it's not like we are actually all playing just all the blue moves or all the same thing. Sometimes there is still a bit of that twinkle in the eye, and you really do actually kind of discover your own style or your own way. It's just harder to find now than it was back then.
I appreciate you saying that, Paige, because it almost makes me think of like the whole martial arts reference where they're like, if you're really advanced in martial arts, like, do you play a particular style? No, like there is no style, right? Like you play whatever really works. I also like how you're talking about it is this sort of mirror to who you are. Cece, I don't know if does that resonate with you at all when you think about you playing the game and how you're playing mirroring sort of what's going on for you at a particular moment?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna bring up a heavy thing. My mother passed away last April,
Oh,
and
so
I
sorry.
definitely I could see. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, we're coming up on a year, and I think I'm in a much better place now in my grieving. But you could definitely tell in my OGS, it was like, oh, doing better, doing better. And it's like, oh, you could see where April hit, where I took a big dip, and that's when I realized I was like, oh, my mental state and how I'm feeling definitely affects like the games that I'm playing. Like I don't know. I think about that of like kind of like what Paige you had mentioned about you could tell what the other player had eaten for breakfast kind of thing. If it's weird to see how much external things kind of affect our games and how we're playing. And I don't know, I would love to play games with all of you because I wonder if there's like certain little trans things that I can notice. Like, oh, we're all playing slightly differently. That's neat. That's interesting.
And Michaela, you kind of brought it up, but I mean, you were talking about how your style would, whether it changed or didn't change. I mean, do you all feel like there was changes to how you played the game? Like Paige, I know you in particular, like you played for a while, before you had transitioned and then you stopped and then you came back. I mean, did you notice any changes to how you played now your identity was quite different or felt different outwardly?
So personally, I don't think it had anything to do with my transition. I did have a change in style,
Got it.
but I don't think it had to do with the transition. I think it was just an age thing.
Mm.
I know when I was younger, I started when I was 12, and so I was very fast. I played blitz games, 10-second go. I played a lot of that, and I could only sit still for so long. And so I had to always be going to the next game, into the next game, into the next game, about 40 games a day. And so I played a lot. And then now I can probably only do about 10 games a day, and I generally cannot play as fast as I once did. I can't blitz like that anymore. And I've also noticed that I don't play as crazy. I tend to think a little bit about my moves now, except when I'm streaming. I still play pretty fast when I'm streaming, but to me, when I'm streaming, I still play pretty slow in my eyes comparatively to before. But yeah, I would say that it's probably more so for me like an age thing rather than a transition thing in my case.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I think that's something. I don't know. I saw a really great article on this years and years and years ago, written by a trans woman that was about how transitioning is also aging. Like we're all every day, we're just marching one day forward into the future, and so aging is inevitably just a part of all of our lives. And so to transition is also to age. But like the example they gave is that there are trans men who, upon transitioning, they're like, "Oh, I'm balding," and they were like, really distraught about that. Of like, "Oh, I don't want to bald." It's like, well, I mean, that's also just part of aging for any cis man. Also, like that's just like a component of aging. And so yeah, it's neat to kind of I don't know, like trying to pick out like what's the difference between like aging versus like a transition thing, like you were saying with your play. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, I mean, these are kind of one and the same thing a little bit. Like it's these are both just different components of aging.
Yeah. I think if there's one commonality between all the stuff I've heard, like comments that I've received on my videos, I think I made one last video just about, I'm taking a small break from content creation to try to like travel a little bit more, be with my partner, understand where I want to take my next steps, blah, blah, blah. But like a big common thread that I would always see in my emotional sort of like life change posts is just they always state something about moving through change with grace, right? There's something about like change and moving through it and like acceptance of that. And I think if there's one thing that really can be connected between any human being, it's that concept of aging, that concept of change, that things don't stay the same in your life, that you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. And trans people are almost pushed through the ringer of that spiritual experience, the breaking down of the ego, the building it back up of something different, and that understanding of the destruction and rebirth as we change, as we age. Like we know on such a more intimate level than I think the average, like the cis person would understand. But it's something that connects human beings, right? Like think of this person that's in a job that they hate, that they have to do, and they know they need to make the change, but they keep putting it off and they keep putting it off. And they finally take the leap into the new job. Like this, the feeling of dysphoria, that feeling, that like grinding, gnawing, something isn't right feeling is so human, right? And I think that's like where like diverse stories can really connect people so much more than like you think on the surface.
And Alexandra, maybe we can loop you in here. When you think about you joining this committee on diversity and inclusion for the French Confederation, how do you all think about some of the things you're trying to focus on to help make the Go community a more inclusive place?
So one of the things that we really want to focus on is to have a person who's there if someone goes through something that they shouldn't go through, whether it's harassment, bullying, whatever the case may be. So we really tried to make it more visible. We're thinking about maybe putting at least a contact number, saying if you're in a tournament or Go club or a Go camp, whatever you say, if there's any problem, you can go contact this person and see what you can do. And also, we're trying to reach out to organizations that really are specialized in the topic, so that they can really tell us exactly what to do what to do in the situation, the procedure. The most important thing is just keep the conversation going about inclusivity. To be honest, the most problems I've noticed, especially in Go clubs, when a trans woman or a cis woman comes into a Go club, that it's usually a male dominant space, right? So it can happen that they feel isolated, feel like the other, or not taken as seriously because of a confirmation bias that the guys can have, or if a guy like gives an inappropriate remark to the girl, she automatically feels unwelcome and isolated. But there's also a thing is just everyone else being passive towards inappropriate behavior, and that, in my opinion, definitely needs to change. So yeah, keep the conversation going and make everyone aware that these things are serious, because people leave clubs. That's the thing. And someone in the Federation did a few statistics about the percentage of non-male players in the French Confederation. It's not very big. It's 14% maximum.
Wow.
And it's a completely flat line year after year. For 10 years, it's been the same.
And Cece, I know you mentioned in our conversations, you said, yeah, I show up and I'm kind of the only woman or anybody that's sort of not male. Yeah, wow.
I want to acknowledge that there's like good things that have happened on that though too. Like I went to I'm in a larger city now, and I went to the Go club there, and there was an older gentleman who immediately was like, "Oh hey, welcome to the club. Let's play a couple games." He was way better than me, kicked my ass every time. But I think there was a lot of younger men that were there, and obviously seeing a woman at Go Club is already a rarity, let alone a trans woman. And I think the older gentleman, I don't want to out him on this podcast, but he was just a really amazing. He immediately was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like be nice and friends with you, and I'm gonna include you on this." And he helped walk me through the games that he played, and I think that like that's really the key is just you want to make sure everyone's feeling included. You want to make sure everyone's feeling like their voice is being a bit heard. It also occurred to me because of Alexandra, you mentioned the statistics on that, and I was like, you might literally have like 50% of the trans Go players in this podcast right now. It's just the four.
There's dozens of us. Dozens.
Yeah.
To kind of touch up on what you were saying, Cece, I actually think that generally the best way to go about it are like parts of the community obviously just need to treat people with respect. I think that's like just the general thing. And I thought about not saying this because I didn't want to run the podcast portion of this the wrong way. So don't take it like personally. But I do think that like a lot of people don't understand what it means to be trans. There are some people who are happy that they are trans. Like I am happy that I am. But at the end of the day, we just want to be treated like we're normal. And again, I don't want to rub the podcast the wrong way. I like questions in good faith. I don't like questions in bad faith. But sometimes when people ask me, what is your opinion about this as a trans person? And I'm just like, well, would me being not a trans person change my opinion, or wouldn't my opinion just have always been the same because I am a respectable person? You know, so there are some questions that sometimes come off really weird. Like I know I was interviewed once and somebody asked me a really strange question that I wouldn't have had a different opinion whether I was trans or not. And I was like, couldn't you just say, what is your opinion as a person or individual about this topic? And it's like, my opinion wouldn't have changed. So can you word that differently? We just generally want to be treated with respect like any other person, you know? I'm not super tight about everything. It's just more so that when somebody looks at me and talks to me, I don't want to be treated specially or unspecially. I just want to be treated as if like I was any other friend or person that they were speaking to. Because at the end of the day, I'm a human being, just like everybody else. So it's really weird when people try to treat me as if I'm special or as if I'm not special and that I just deserve disrespect immediately. And so some questions come off really strange or stuff like that when people approach me, and it's just like, just be normal, be cool.
Yeah.
Michaela,
Yeah.
does that resonate at all?
It does a little bit. You know, you go through seasons of your life where this theme of like aging, going through seasons, right? Being trans was like 90% of my identity when I first started, right? And then so like more of me aging and sort of growing up is under like rediscovering the rest of myself, and having my identity just be a part of who I was, just like any normal thing, you know. And the internet has a way of polarizing everything. So it's like when I look at trans issues online, it's always like the either like super like, yeah, sort of like, as a trans person, how do you feel about like drinking water as a trans person? Like, does that change for you? It's like, I mean, I just drink water. I don't know. And then there's like the other side that's just like, I don't think you should drink the same water. I mean, do you need it? Do you need the water? Like, it's just all this. And it's like, can I just drink water? God damn it. Like, can I just? So it really tends to shift the two like experiences into these like camps online, right? So there's a level of like slice of life. Like I just love a beach episode. Can we just like get to a normal day? Like kind of.
Yeah, we're not hamsters. We are normal people.
The Go documentary, The Surrounding Game, there's a quote from it that I really love where they're talking about how there's that quote that I'm sure we've all heard of, if chess is the battle, then Go is the war. And he was talking about, he's like, I hate that quote because Go isn't a war. It's two people sitting down quietly to put stones on a wooden board. The act of Go is really peaceful. And I keep thinking about that in terms of like, you know, like how do you as a trans woman feel about this, or what are your opinions on that? And it's like, I just want to sit down with people and quietly put stones on a board and drink tea. It's such a soothing activity, win or lose. Like I'm learning out of this. I don't know. I keep thinking about that. Of like, this really could be like this simple thing. We don't need to make it out to be this like bigger thing of what's going on. I just want to be a human putting stones on a board.
Yeah. And like it's hard, right? Because at the same time, you know, there's battles to fight, right? There's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think
Oh,
when we're all
entirely, yeah.
transitioning, it's like it demands so much of our time and resources. And our goal, hopefully, is to make it easier for the next generation. So there's a level of like using our experiences, and we have the responsibility to sort of try to bring the younger generation and make it better for them. So there's always that balance between like, I want to retreat in the mountains, but then there's also like battles to be fought here, and there's like, it's balance. It's always just like kind of that balance between all these things.
It's an interesting point too, because like from the outside looking in, it's such a paradox. It's like, okay, I see that unfortunately we live in a world where these things are being pointed out and noticed and people are being discriminated against and treated differently. So it's like, okay, in a way, I want to bring attention to that because I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's right. And then at the same time, I can totally understand you also just want to be treated normally. So it's this kind of like, how do you get at that? But if you get at that, you're bringing attention to it.
I actually want to comment on that because I think it's really important. I think the best way to put this, and never say this on like the trans Reddit or anything like that, but I think there are bad people and good people in all communities, and the LGBTQIA community is like no exception. There are people that will answer and do things in bad faith. And I think that is unfortunate because it sheds like a bad light on everyone that isn't like that. But with today's kind of world, it's like you're either 100% in or you're 100% out. So if you think the trans community is bad, you're going to think the whole thing is bad. But that's just not how it is. There are bad people who are trans, and then there are good people who are trans. The way that I look at it is if somebody asks me a question in good faith about who I am and stuff like that, I have absolutely no problem answering. But just like there are bad cis people, there are bad transgender people, and some trans people are going to take offense to these questions and stuff like that. So my advice is always just treat people the way you would normally. And if they get upset, just back up and be like, okay, I apologize. And, just don't conversate the same way with that person. But unfortunately, there is no good way to tell. There really isn't. You're just going to have some trans people who get upset randomly and some who are like, okay, I do get that not everyone is educated on these things and not everybody knows. Are they trying to ask offensively or are they trying to ask in good faith? I give everybody the benefit of the doubt that everyone is asking in good faith. I even had like this, it was actually weird because it was my very first experience experiencing transphobia. I've been out for maybe like 5+ years and I had not experienced anything like that. And it was just before the other lady on Facebook. I was in my chat and this guy, well, supposedly they were trans, and they said, wow, how do I achieve such a good looking transition result as you? And I was like, thinking to myself, I was like, I don't look that great, honestly. I don't really think so. And and I had realized because they kept on going that they were actually saying that I had transitioned into a guy. And they were saying that I look so much like a dude rather than a trans woman. And I was like, wow, that is such a rude way of making fun of me. And so I remember banning that person. But there are just bad people in all communities. And it's just best to say, hey, this person, is not a good person. They're not asking questions in good faith. But it did take me a while to realize that that person wasn't asking in good faith. And so sometimes there are just very bad people. And it's best to just differentiate people not from the community they're in, but differentiate them from, hey, is this person good or is this person bad? It doesn't matter what gender they are, what race they are, anything like that. Everyone is good or bad. That's just the way it is, regardless of their gender or race.
And you don't know what baggage people are coming in with. People can be very sensitive to questions and respond more aggressively just because of what they've been through. And like it's hard to know, right? But like at the same time, it can be very simple. Like we are all content creators in some way, shape, or form that are very open about our trans identity and our trans story online. It's a very natural thing for like you as a podcast host to reach out to us and be like, I'd love to shed more light on this. You do it in a respectful way. You ask if we're okay with the questions. I mean, in my opinion, everything was done great. I can't find any weird issues. And it's just you being a normal person. You know what I mean? Like it was fine. It was a normal conversation. But then like, everyone has their own stories, right? And there's some trans people or anyone in any group that are not trying to be a mouthpiece for their community, that kind of just want to live their lives, that don't want to be asked questions, that don't want to deal with this. They have every right to not want to, right? And so, but I think it's easy to know, like you can get a sense for who a person is and what side of that fence that they're on as well. Yeah. So yeah, totally, Paige. Everyone's a person like any other person, and we can probably suss it out.
Maybe we could just sort of start to close the conversation. Anything you all see that could be done in some sort of more institutional way that just might help things get normalized a bit?
On like a ground level, I would say where things are happening per se, things even of like where the club is meeting and what kind of business it is can affect how comfortable women feel coming to this, whether cis or trans, or people of color feel about coming to, like, there's lots of things to kind of consider that like these are like soft ways that we can kind of make go clubs and go in general a bit more accessible for more people, is trying to take into account of like, how do we make this kind of a better environment? But I think that there's lots of background things like that sometimes of just kind of like, yeah, maybe having this here at this bar that's like mostly all men in a room full of men and having like one woman show up and then not ever coming again. It's like, well, we can maybe take into account like maybe this isn't a great environment to be having everyone show up to a Go club.
Actually, I have a friend who often does workshops on these types of things, like how do you welcome new Go players in. And one of the things he said, and I completely agree, is in France and I think in Europe in general, a lot of Go clubs meet up in bars, which can be a fun atmosphere, but for one, alcohol can be a pretty big social barrier between drinkers and non-drinkers. And also, as you mentioned, concerning the safety of women, people of color, LGBTQ plus community in general, even not among the Go players, but if you just feel not safe in that environment, because another category of people who don't seem safe to you are also present, well, that doesn't make you want to go there anymore. So that's a good thing to consider.
I think being the change, coming off of like what you said, Alexandra, just like if you think something could be improved, not being afraid to sort of take that initiative and sort of be that change, right? Like if you're living in somewhere and you don't really see a Glow club, like you can start one, right? Like you can pull people out of places that you wouldn't find them by putting the word out, by doing things in good faith, like Paige was saying, and just like not being afraid to just start making the change in real life, bringing people into the game community feels so great, and I think breaking Go out of the internet can be such a beautiful experience.
Michaela, it's funny you mentioned that actually. In the last 3 weeks, I've trained 3 or 4 different trans women on how to play Go now.
Oh,
And then
hell yeah.
there's like a cis lesbian friend who I'm also teaching to play Go. And I kind of realized it is a little bit of that. If you're not seeing what you're looking for, then just make it kind of thing. That like, I was like, I want more queer people at Go Club. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to recruit them. Like I'm just going to go out of my way
Yeah.
and yeah, there's something to be said about that. Like this isn't even running like against the current Go club in the city where I live. It's more of like if I get them interested enough, then maybe we can all at once kind of go to a Go club and
Mhm.
suddenly, oh wow, there's like 5 people here who haven't been here who are all queer.
Yeah.
And also I have like Go tattoos. Like Go is very much like a
Mhm.
part of who I am. And being able to pull more queer people into that has been amazing. It's been really great to kind of take what, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Go has been like a very private thing for me, and it's been really
Mhm.
kind of exhilarating to be like, oh, let me show you this really cool game. One of my friends is a massive weeb, and she's going to listen to this and be like, wow, you called me a weeb on a podcast. But she is a massive weeb. And so that's why I told her, I was like, I am going on this Go podcast to talk about trans things. And she was like, that's amazing. And yeah, so I don't know, there's something really fun about kind of recruiting people who might be just Go adjacent. Find the
Yeah.
weebs, find the outsiders, and pull them in.
It's so cool. Like, I'll never forget the story that I read where, like, before someone ran a sub 4-minute mile, everyone thought it was scientifically impossible. And then,
Oh
like, the
yeah.
minute someone did, you just see reports, like, all over the world of people, like, breaking sub 4 minutes. Like, just humans need to see
Yeah.
it's possible. And it makes it so much easier.
Okay, maybe quick lightning round. We can go around the proverbial table. Who's your favorite Go player, if you have one, and why, in a way that maybe a non-Go player could understand? So maybe we could start with Paige.
I guess the American Go community can call me a bit of a traitor, but my favorite Western professional player, well, it's changed a bit now, but before it was Matthew Surma, and I thought he was really cool because when we held the first transatlantic US versus European Go League, Matthews was the first European player, and he swept the entire US field by himself. And I was just like, that is so cool. Nowadays, it's more so Andrei Kravitz, and I think I'm just generally impressed with him because we used to play a lot, and I beat him all the time. And then, I left, and then over the time that I was gone, I never thought that he was going to rise and be so strong, but now he has come so far, and it's like, wow, you are so good now. You always perform in tournaments. It's so cool to like watch you play.
Mm.
And so I think he's my favorite player to watch now.
that's also a shout out to how insane the level you're playing at, Paige. So we are not worthy, as they say. What about you, Cece?
I'm gonna go with Lisa Dole. I watched the AlphaGo games live, which for Eastern Coast timeline, that was like 4 a.m. Go is like the last human game that, or not the last. We've realized that there's things like Warcraft that computers can't beat pros at. But for a long time, Go was like kind of the titan of like, oh, we can't build a computer powerful enough. And I think watching it all and kind of watching, hearing interviews with him talking about it, that like even after those games, he was like, I'm retiring from Go. Like it's gone. I don't know that there's like a special like kind of hero moment of that of like he fought valiantly. He tried to get through it. And eventually he fell. That's actually the shirt I'm wearing is the game where AlphaGo played a random move and we don't know why, and we don't understand. And that to me, that's neat. That's so fascinating.
Excellent. Alexandra, favorite player, why?
If we're talking about European professionals or strong players, I think I'll go with Stanislav Frejlek, who's a professional European player from Poland. So I got a chat with him a bit actually during the last European Go Congress in Toulouse, because my boyfriend and another person wrote a paper for the international Go studies that happened during the Congress, and Stanislav also wrote a paper where he theorized endgame, and so I'm talking to me really feel how Go makes him just really happy, and you can see the spark in his eyes when he talks about what he does. And he is also a great teacher. He did a few courses during the 2 weeks, and the dynamic was great. He's always open to comment, and he was always super efficient, super nice, always with a smile. So yeah, I think I'll go with him.
That's awesome. And shout out to Stanislav. He has some great courses online. If you check them out, I guess
Go Magic,
I'll do an unapologetic plug to Go Magic. And there was a nice question thrown in here. Michaela, we're putting you on the spot. So favorite Go player that is maybe a woman, a female Go player, and why?
Oof, I wish I could remember names. I'm so bad with names. There's this woman that won. She won one of the, and I was watched her game, and I think it was Korea. But I just remember a year ago or so, just like watching it. It was just like such a cool, beautiful game. And I just like tore through all of her games, was like looking at all the moves, and I just remember. But the name escapes me in this moment.
Is it
Choi Jong or Kim Min-ji? Who's it, Paige?
I think it might be
Choi
Choi Jong.
Oh,
It might be Choi Jong.
Choi Jong's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, Choi
Yeah.
Jong's amazing. So is
Yes.
Kim Yoon-ji. I love Kim Yoon-ji's story. Her story is amazing.
Yeah, she was great. I think my other favorite is Cho Chi-kun. Honestly, I'm such a Cho Chi-kun stan.
Is he the one that grabbed the teacup mid game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
God. This is maybe a good stopping point. So first of all, thank you all. Like, this is awesome. I love this conversation. I appreciate you all being willing to chat. And yeah, thanks for everything you all do as Go players and enthusiasts. And thanks again.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thanks
awesome.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It
Travis.
was a lot of fun.
It is that time where we're going to say thank you to all the individual contributors to the show. We're also going to talk about the sponsors for this episode. The first sponsor is Go Magic. They have a phenomenal website with a ton of great video tutorials, a lot of problems. They are also getting involved in a lot of streaming content. They're doing things on YouTube. Definitely check them out at gomagic.org. The next sponsor of the episode is Baduk Pop. They have over 27 million games played on their app, 3.5 million user accounts, and 4,500 Go problems. This is a great place to play against AI, to play correspondence games against other people all over the world. You can find them on the App Store or at badukpop.com. That's BADUKPOP.com. SmartGo One is also a sponsor of this episode. They allow you to record games when you're playing in tournaments. Smart Go 1 is a great place to go for not only learning the game of Go, but also practicing against the computer, studying professional games, solving all sorts of different problems, and a lot of other things, including their Go books, which I've found to be incredible. Check them out any place you go to an app store, where they're available on iPhone, iPad, Mac, and the Go books are also available as an EPUB file on other devices. Final sponsor of this episode is AI Sente. They have a great website where you can actually get your games analyzed with advanced AI for free. They're also one of the great places where you can go and actually play an AI bot that is similar to a certain level. Check them out at ai-sensei.com. That is what we have for this episode. We covered a lot of ground in the roundtable discussion, so I appreciate you listening, and we will catch you next time. This is All Things Go.